We often think of terrorism as the act of a few radicals. We picture shadowy figures, bombs, and chaos. But what happens when the very entity meant to protect us becomes the source of terror? What happens when the state, with its vast resources and power, turns against its own people? That's state-sponsored oppression, a hidden terror that festers beneath the surface of seemingly democratic societies. This isn't about isolated incidents or a few bad cops. It's about a systematic, calculated assault on specific communities and dissenting voices. It's about using the law, the police, and even the media to silence, intimidate, and control. This essay will delve into the unsettling reality of state-sponsored oppression, focusing on India as a case study. We'll expose the tactics used to suppress dissent, target minorities, and maintain a facade of normalcy. By drawing parallels with other countries, we'll reveal a disturbing global trend that threatens the very fabric of democracy and human rights. This isn't just another news story, it's a call to action, because when the state becomes the oppressor, silence is not an option. India, the world's largest democracy, prides itself on its secular constitution and diverse population. But beneath this veneer lies a disturbing truth. A pattern of state-sponsored oppression targeting religious minorities, particularly Muslims and Christians. The Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protests of 2019 to 2020 provided a stark glimpse into this reality. These peaceful demonstrations, led by students and activists, were met with brutal police crackdowns. Tear gas, water cannons, and physical assaults became commonplace. The state labeled dissenters as anti-national and terrorists, effectively criminalizing dissent. The violence didn't end there. In 2023, ethnic clashes erupted in Manipur, with the Christian Kuki-Zo community facing targeted attacks. Over 230 churches were burned, homes were destroyed, and hundreds were killed. This wasn't just a communal clash, it bore the hallmarks of a systematic pogrom with allegations of state complicity. Sadly, these are just two examples in a long and troubling timeline. From the use of draconian laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act to the extrajudicial killings of activists and journalists, the Indian state has consistently employed violence and intimidation to silence dissent and consolidate power. The narrative of a tolerant and inclusive India is crumbling under the weight of these realities. It's time to confront the truth. India's hidden terror is real, and it's time to break the silence. State-sponsored oppression doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, insidious process that relies on a sophisticated toolkit designed to control and subdue. One of the most potent weapons in this arsenal is the law itself. Laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, ostensibly meant to combat terrorism, have been repurposed to target activists, journalists, and anyone critical of the government. Vaguely worded and open to interpretation, these laws allow for indefinite detention without trial, effectively criminalizing dissent. Then there's the ever-expanding web of surveillance. From facial recognition technology to internet shutdowns, the Indian government has ramped up its surveillance capabilities, creating a chilling effect on free speech and assembly. Citizens are now wary of expressing their views, fearing repercussions from a state that seems to be watching their every move. But perhaps the most insidious tool is impunity. Police brutality, extrajudicial killings, and other human rights violations often go unpunished. This culture of impunity sends a clear message. The state is above the law, and dissent will not be tolerated. These tools of tyranny, meticulously employed, create an environment of fear and self-censorship, effectively silencing any form of opposition. It's a slow death of democracy, disguised as national security and progress. In an age of information overload, the media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception. Sadly, in India, a significant portion of the mainstream media has become complicit in the state's project of oppression. Instead of holding power to account, these media outlets often act as mouthpieces for the government, parroting its narratives and demonizing marginalized communities. Dissent is framed as anti-national, protests are portrayed as violent, and victims are often blamed for their own oppression. This deliberate distortion of reality creates a dangerous echo chamber where critical thinking is stifled and empathy is eroded. The public, bombarded with biased information, becomes desensitized to the plight of the oppressed and even complicit in their persecution. This isn't just about biased reporting, it's about actively shaping public opinion to favor the oppressor. It's about manufacturing consent for human rights abuses by controlling the narrative, and it's a chilling reminder of the power of propaganda in a supposedly free society. India's story is not unique. From the crackdown on pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong to the persecution of the Rohingya in Myanmar, state-sponsored oppression is a global epidemic, infecting democracies and autocracies alike. In China, the government's treatment of the Uyghur Muslim minority stands as a stark example of state-sponsored oppression. Mass detention camps, forced labor, and cultural erasure are just some of the atrocities faced by this community. In Russia, Vladimir Putin's regime has systematically silenced dissent, imprisoning or eliminating political opponents and journalists. The invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent crackdown on anti-war protests have further exposed the authoritarian nature of the regime. These examples, though geographically diverse, share a common thread: the use of state power to silence dissent, target minorities, and consolidate control. It's a reminder that the fight for human rights and democracy is a global one, requiring solidarity and collective action. The fight against oppression transcends borders. It's a fight for the very soul of humanity, a fight that demands our attention and action. The consequences of state-sponsored oppression extend far beyond the immediate victims. Left unchecked, it eats away at the very fabric of democracy, eroding trust in institutions and creating a climate of fear and self-censorship. When citizens are afraid to speak out against injustice, when dissent is criminalized, and when the media becomes a tool of propaganda, democracy is in peril. The fundamental rights and freedoms that form the bedrock of a just and equitable society crumble under the weight of oppression. The erosion of democratic values has a ripple effect. It leads to increased polarization, social unrest, and a decline in human development indicators. It creates a fertile ground for extremism and violence as marginalized communities, stripped of their rights and silenced, are left with few avenues for redress. Silence is not an option. The price of inaction is far too high. We must recognize the insidious nature of state-sponsored oppression and actively resist it, not just for the sake of the oppressed, but for the preservation of our shared humanity and the future of democracy itself. Despite the pervasive climate of fear and oppression, courageous voices continue to rise, challenging the state's narrative and demanding justice. From students and activists to journalists and human rights defenders, these individuals and organizations risk their lives to expose the truth and fight for a more just and equitable society. The anti-CAA protests, though brutally suppressed, ignited a spark of resistance that continues to burn bright. Across India, civil society organizations are working tirelessly to document human rights abuses, provide legal aid to victims, and raise awareness about the dangers of state-sponsored oppression. Internationally, human rights groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch play a vital role in amplifying the voices of the oppressed, holding states accountable for their actions, and advocating for policy changes that protect human rights. Their struggle is our struggle. Their voices deserve to be heard, amplified, and supported. Their courage inspires us to break our silence, challenge the status quo, and work tirelessly towards a world where the state protects, not oppresses. The fight against state-sponsored oppression is not a spectator sport. It demands active participation from each and every one of us. We cannot afford to be bystanders to injustice. Silence is complicity. So, what can we do? Educate ourselves and others. We must seek out information from diverse and reliable sources, challenge the dominant narrative, and raise awareness about the realities of state oppression. Support human rights organizations. Financial contributions and volunteer work can help these organizations continue their vital work of documenting abuses, providing legal aid, and advocating for change. Hold our elected officials accountable. We must demand that our governments uphold human rights both domestically and internationally. Write to your representatives, attend town hall meetings, and make your voice heard. Amplify the voices of the oppressed. Use social media and other platforms to share their stories, raise awareness, and challenge misinformation. Every act of resistance, no matter how small, chips away at the edifice of oppression. Together, we can break the cycle of violence, silence, and impunity, and create a world where the state serves the people, not the other way around. The fight against state-sponsored oppression is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, frustrations, and moments of despair. But we must never lose sight of hope. Hope for a future where justice prevails, where human rights are respected, and where the state is accountable to its people. This hope is not naive optimism. It's fueled by the courage of those who resist, the tireless work of human rights defenders, and the growing global awareness of this insidious form of tyranny. It's a hope rooted in the belief that change is possible, that even the most entrenched systems of oppression can be dismantled brick by brick. The path forward is clear, unwavering commitment to human rights, relentless pursuit of justice, and a refusal to be silenced. Let us move forward with courage, compassion, and a shared determination to create a world where the state is a protector, not an oppressor, and where the inherent dignity of every human being is respected and upheld. The fight for a just future begins with each of us. Let's make sure our voices are heard.